And welcome to the webinar of what's new in at EdShed. So let's get stuck in. Okay, so what's new in EdShed? So what I'm going to talk about obviously is some new things that are happening in EdShed. What's coming up? I'm going to try and give sort of specific timescales and dates and what have you as much as I can. I've told people about some of this stuff before. Some things have got a bit log jammed, so I'll try and be as specific as I can. I'll start though with a little bit of an update about EdShed in general. Where we are, it's a sort of, coming towards the end of so in the UK, the academic year. Where we are now, we have over 170,000 teachers in over 10,000 schools all around the world, which it absolutely boggles my mind, really. It's nothing but a privilege to be able to help and support so many educators and children. Just about half of UK primary schools are subscribed to something, and an average is 1.5 products per school. Over 100,000 children a day play on our platform, which again is amazing and quite humbling, I suppose. And our team has grown to nearly 50 people, and we've got staff in the USA and South Africa right now. So we've got quite big in all regards, and as I say, it's all we've tried to do is do our job well, but it's a privilege to be able to do all this. So where are we? Again, just I thought I'd share some data about where we reach. You can kind of zoom in and you get more and more spots, but you can see how sort of widely spread we are in the UK, and then globally you sort of see our kind of hotspots, particularly in the UK, around the UAE, Australia, America. So we're reaching lots of kids in lots of places, which is great. Our mission, what we are trying to achieve in all this, I suppose, is to improve children's learning of foundational skills through high quality pedagogy, high quality teaching resources, and effective technology, including engaging games. We aim to make the best product that has the most impact with the least hassle and at a fair price. And that's sort of what threads through everything. And so the things that I'm going to tell you about, they come from this principle. All we're trying to do is help children learn more. Yeah, and so I've missed a slide. Yeah, there we go. Put my slides out of order. So the things that underpin the product ethos come from that. First thing is that the content progression is systematic and explicit. So we don't just go, here's some stuff. If there is a progression, it's intentional, it's systematic, and we make it clear what children are learning, because that's what research says works best. Our pedagogy is evidence-based and it's reasoned. So again, there's a reason we do things. There's a reason we have particular activities in a particular place, particular modeling, and all the rest of it. And actually, things change, research changes, evidence changes, and so that's why our products evolve sort of each year. You look and you think, well, actually, research now says this is better, so we evolve with it. That's what every classroom teacher does everywhere. You just, again, try and use the best information to do the best you can for the children that you're teaching. We recognize that you need to practice skills, and that's where our games come in. So the idea of the games that the children play with us is that they're practicing, and it's making that practice accessible. They might know, you know the value of the thing that they're learning, but to do things over and over, sometimes you need a little bit of help to frame that practice and to feel an immediate sense of reward, which is what the games try to achieve. And we always try and frame learning as positive and worthwhile. So we won't apologize for learning. We won't say, oh, sorry, you've got to learn something. Why don't you play a game? Just like an apology. Learning has inherent value. And so we always try and make that be the message in the subtext that the learning is the game is the learning, even if there's other stuff going on. Because I think that's an important message in there, that you have to value the thing that you're not selling, but we're selling. But you have to value the knowledge that you're giving the children. And if you don't see it as valuable, then how are they going to see it as valuable? Go back a slide. I'm going to start with the sort of the bad news, I suppose. So there's one thing we're going to do from September is the headline UK pricing rate will increase by 5%. That accounts for inflation, national insurance rise, and so on. I think it's pretty standard from what BISA have done some research, and it seems that that's kind of what most people are doing. It's just the way of the world, isn't it? What we are offering, though, to sort of immunise schools against future rises for periods is 3 and 5 year subscription plans with a 10 and 20% discount respectively. So if you have money in your budget and you're going to keep using it, it means you can lock in the current advertised price with a discount, and that that's secure then for that period. Let's get back through that. Okay, so I'm going to run through a load of updates in kind of a particular order. I tried to make it kind of logical. There's all sorts of stuff, but I'm going to start with Spelling Shed UK scheme updates. So what have we done? Well, we've overhauled it generally. So we've run through, we've tried to update activities, moderate with the difficulty of tasks, the difficulty of words used, improve modeling where we can. So we're giving the appropriate, most appropriate kind of approach to things. We've got an updated font, which you can now download on that link, or if you go onto the Spelling Shed system in whole scheme resources, you can just download it. The reason we did that is schools want to be consistent to us, but we don't want them to have to pay for a font. So you can just download ours, and all the glyphs are formed in the right way. It's nicely spaced. And so on. So that's available. So for anyone, I know lots of teachers ask us for display resources and that kind of thing. So you can use that font freely available. And I say when the new version comes out, that font will be throughout there. We've reordered stage 6 because teachers were using it out of order because of the way the challenge weeks were. So we've sort of rationalized, and we've tried to give a route through that we think makes sense for everybody, includes all the content that you need, but also front loads the right stuff. We've updated our homework sheets, and this is all coming for September. So please don't download and preprint all the planning, because it's going to be out of date for September. And as a general principle, I suppose that's worth saying anyway, that the content's available. You download it, but we do change things. We do update things. Obviously, sometimes there are typos, but we're constantly trying to improve our teaching content. So, if you've downloaded and printed and put things in a file, you don't know if you've got the most current version. So I would say hold off if you can. Although I appreciate, people want to be prepared for the coming weeks when you're planning lessons. Australia, we have been rolling out an Akara version, which is most of Australia. That should be fully out around October. A New South Wales edition, which is completely different to the rest of Australia edition, should launch for next June in time for an event in Sydney. That's our goal. We spent quite a lot of time trying to get the match between the curriculums and how we teach in place, but that's kind of rolling out. America, Grammar Arcade USA went live yesterday at last. So you can, if you have a premium membership, you can go in and play on that. And if anyone is going to ISTE next week, we will be on booth 1563. And we can set up free trials and all the rest of it. This is what it looks like. UK and everybody else, the rest of the world, have Grammar Arcade also. So a series of games which focus on the other part of the sort of foundational English skills, punctuation and grammar. all sorts of bright, fun things. Kids love Fish Fast, fascinated by catching the right fish, but generally prove very popular and making the sort of punctuation, grammar, nuts and bolts skills type lessons, have a nice activity to consolidate and teach and practice. Okay. In South Africa, I mentioned we've got a team out there. We've been rolling out Afrikaans word lists. In South Africa, schools have to be either English or Afrikaans home language by designation, but all schools have to teach both. So hence why obviously it's been desirable for us to provide that. So Afrikaans home language is available. First additional language is coming soon. Right, so UK, this is UK Phonics Shed scheme. So what have we added? So we've done a really big overhaul with Phonics Shed. There's a lot that's changed, lots and lots of nitty gritty. We've effectively gone through every single resource and made sure that everything is kind of like internal moderation, I suppose. We've also, since we were validated by the DfE then published some other stuff like the reading framework, which obviously impacts on phonics. And so what we've done is we've looked at what else is in there, what else can we do, what other important things really would a school want to be inside a phonics scheme. And so fluency weeks is one of those things. So fluency as a focus is a really important part of reading. And so we've got some specific guidance and planning around that. We've updated chapter 1, which is the kind of pre-GPC content, particularly for nursery. But that really goes into depth with those kind of skills of hearing individual sounds, beginning to blend and segment, hearing rhythm, hearing syllables, all those sorts of things, to give children the best foundation that we can before they start with the GPCs in reception. There are some new sounds. Again, the reading framework just added some stuff that kids are supposed to know, and particularly TCH gets introduced in the reading framework, and so they need to know it, but it's not included in the kind of regular phonics progression. So we've put that in there, and we've got some additional words ending in VE, ORE, and SE, and there's a bit more focus on the URE and the it's not written ZH. The picture of the robot is the robot, and again, there's sounds which can be quite tricky. But are part of English. You can't get away from that fact. And just because certain things aren't necessarily on a certain test doesn't mean that they don't have value. There's a lot of negatives in that sentence. Sorry, but if we're going to be a comprehensive reading phonics program, then we're not going to skip stuff if we think that those things have value. There's also more. We've built in more blending and segmenting practice within lessons. We've added a resource called Bumble's Blending Buddies, which are kind of like a decodable word card. So it's not whole sentences. It's kind of more practice that you might do in advance of the whole decodable books, because it allows a much more focused bit of blending and segmenting practice. And we've got decodable word cards. So we had the word cards, which were the common exception words, but we've now got a whole bank of decodable word cards. So again, just practice, high paced. Can we blend and segment? Can we do this skill with lots of kind of quick fire practice? We've added also chapter 4C, fun phoneme facts. So this is kind of running into year 2, covering the rarer GPCs. So just ensuring, again, that children have everything that they need. They're not going to come across something and go, I just don't know what this is because I've not been taught it, when actually it's part of the English language. Something we haven't quite launched yet, but will be launched for the summer, is the packs of the physical Phonics Shed resources. Currently there is a pack, and what we've found is that different schools work in slightly different ways, and so what some want is everything and lots of decodable books. What some want is more a kind of digital with a little bit of some flashcards and a kind of lightweight approach to the physical resources. And a lot kind of want the middle of the road. And so they will be put together and uploaded in the next couple of weeks. And so again, it just gives schools choice in terms of how to embed the program in your school. And obviously we will support in terms of making decisions for new schools that want to come on board. We are offering a free training session at the moment for new schools that come with us. But all our schools, you know, if you want to chat with us about how to get the best out of any of our EdShed products, just drop us a line. We're always happy to help. MathShed. MathShed, not a lot of visible content changes have happened, but a lot has actually changed. What we've done lots of is it's that moderation and standardization, making sure that the modeling's as good as it can be. So it's kind of had a bit of a spring clean, making sure that the quizzes and the lessons are standardized. And what we have added on the tech side of things is a new algorithm for times tables. So it's a lot more intelligent. You get a nice pretty heat map which shows you which specific times tables children have at what level, and it's kind of adaptive, so it progresses children through from 2s, 5s and 10s through to the more kind of challenging times tables in a relatively intelligent way, with a picture of that grid for you. So purely tech. We have a new online phonics screening check tool. What that gives you, essentially, the core of it is the same as was already there. What we wanted to do is enable a bit more comparison between children. So you can have a group session, but then you can replay it and you can compare much more directly. You can use past papers. You can choose to include or not include pseudo words, randomly generate word lists as well, and then store those. And there's much better reporting, data export. So it's kind of, we've done it again with a bit more sort of thoroughness, I suppose. And so that's live now. And so for next year's, we sort of held off just as the screen and check process was going on, because we didn't want to confuse anybody just as they were trying to use our tool. But for next year, that should give a good run, and the ability, as I say, to standardize, use past papers, and be a bit more kind of have a bit more rigor with the data in there using our tools. And that's kind of what it looks like. So lots of different coloured spots in grids. It's a sort of standard education tracker type view, isn't it? A big new thing, and this is something that has had a lot of the logjam that I mentioned at the start. So we've got a whole new teacher portal we've been building. We have had various feedback about the current teacher portal. If I'm honest, not all of it has been entirely positive, and there are lots of things that we've sort of become aware of, and we've dealt with as they've come. The tech has forced us to change because we had to change the framework that we built it with. And so we decided about 18 months ago to take that opportunity to kind of pause what we were doing on the current system and start again, but do it better from a tech point of view, but also a reporting point of view. There is a lot in there that in terms of launch will start to go out to showcase schools hopefully next week for some of the products. By September, it should be just about releasable generally. Obviously, there's a few things that we haven't quite finished. There's feedback that we want to take from showcase schools and make sure that we've got everything as good as we can. Obviously, there is room for some spanners in the works in there, but and then through the autumn, from a UK point of view, at least the autumn term, the new portal will become more and more available. What we're not going to do is turn off the current teacher portal just in September, because the support team might shoot me. But also, nobody needs a kind of abrupt change at sort of a busy time of year, but it will run in parallel. So you'll be able to switch back and forward. The reporting from children's data is the biggest improvement and changes. That's the stuff that we've prioritized. So you'll be able to kind of manage the classroom as you have done in the current system, but then to look a bit more into the data, that's the bit that we've decided to try and launch first. And hopefully by kind of Christmas, the whole thing will be done and live and finished, and we can start looking at sunsetting the old site. So just making it the default and whatever. But we don't want to do, as I say, is disrupt anybody by changing anything too suddenly, because you haven't always got time to stop and learn a whole new system. So we want to do this whole thing gradually. But I'll show you a few screenshots. So that's the dashboard screen, which gives you kind of your overview. The spelling shed main menu with the kind of main sort of quick access sections, the tools. Data is subdivided into a few sections, so it's based on a group, and we've slightly restructured what's in a group and what's on an individual pupil. So this is the group overview, the competency tracker showing you the objectives, the children, and the general kind of RAG rating standard. There is an ability to select between the game data, termly assessment, teacher assessments, tests for test mode games from our word lists, mastery zone, and assignments. So there's a lot of different views that you can take on what children are doing. And obviously it depends how schools use our system for what will be there. But from a point of view of rigor, I suppose, you want to know week to week how children are doing, but you also want to look at the long-term view. And so the termly assessments, for example, give you that ability to look at actually who's retained this knowledge, what impact have we made on their children's overall learning, not just what can we do this week, but what can we still do from the weeks that have passed. And that's the sort of an important addition, really. History, just let you know what's going on in your group. Mastery zone is ever growing. I think partly it's just the way of technology, but also in our post-COVID world, everybody's got gaps, and it seems like that's not changing anytime soon. And so what Mastery Zone can do is use the tech to take children through what their gaps would be, what they need to learn next, and kind of get the progression right for them. And also that recap. So when you don't just learn something and then remember everything forever. So what it does is it will probe for kind of forgotten things, lost learning, and it will make children kind of review that and keep their knowledge active. And so Mastery Zones had a bit more depth in there. Resources, pretty standard downloadable stuff. Same with the punctuation and grammar scheme, structured a bit more differently. And word list management, kind of core of we've got our scheme lists for the game, but also obviously a core function that's been there since day one, really, is the ability to create your own word lists for whatever, whether it's a topic or a particular objective or a recap. Phonics Shed looks a bit like this. So again, same sort of theme. The overview, you can see much more data rich. There's a lot more happening in there in terms of assessments, summarization. Obviously on an individual pupil, you can drill down much more. The scheme is in a beautiful, lovely little grid. So you can see, what am I teaching this week, this term? What do I need? Get through to the right stuff. And then there's a screen, which I forgot to take a screenshot of, which breaks down that week's skill in much more depth. MathShed, similar kind of overview, times tables being featured, multiplication table check. There's a bit more depth in there. So again, you can see who's ahead, who's behind, etc. Push head in there. So from a new teacher experience, the goal is a much easier to use, much clearer, much more data rich system. And as I say, that will go out to showcase schools next week. and then it will roll out to everybody sort of up until around Christmas time. So look out for that. There'll be a banner on the system, lots of emails, lots of social posts, I'm sure. And when that does come out, you know, with every new system, there's always a kind of bedding in process. So you can see there's a button at the top that says give feedback. You know, we want to know what people think. We want to know what helps. And so hopefully we've done a lot that does help. But if there are things which you know, you think, well, actually, do you know what? I'd find it really useful if this, that, and the other. Probably there are other people that think the same, and so we want to know that stuff. So by all means, let us know. All right, moving on to the child experience. So first of all, this is something that we've been trying to do for a very, very long time. We've had lots of new avatars sitting around. The problem has been that the way we've created the avatar was kind of in the web browser, and there were so many pieces, it was effectively kind of grinding to a halt, trying to make your laptop melt, trying to draw the avatar. So what we've had to do is completely rebuild it all and retrofit all the items, and then we've added a bunch more. So shortly there will be the new avatar tool will launch. That includes things like pets and lots of extra beards and facial hair and backgrounds and all sorts. So hopefully lots of handheld items. There's little flags, chicken drumstick, fairy wand, lots of things that hopefully children will get excited about. Gives them a purpose to spend their honeypots on if there's more avatar stuff. So that's coming pretty soon. And the last thing, we've got a whole new game. So this new game is called Besieged. It is currently in internal testing. We're trying to get it out before the end of the UK sort of school year. It's going to be a little bit fine. We don't want to release it until it's fully ready. Where we are at the moment is just in getting the difficulty right, which will make sense in a second. So, but it's very much imminent. So it will absolutely definitely be live for September. So I'm hoping we can get a preview out before the end of the school year. The way the game works, it's essentially a tower defense game. So you will choose a map. Different maps have different challenges, which the children will find out. Your goal is to protect the gate. So the queen lives behind the gate. Your bees have to defend the queen from the invading insects. That's kind of the idea. So here I've placed a bee down in the center, zapping the beetles who are trying to get in. Every round, you get a certain number of bugs. You also get an opportunity to earn some nectar, which is kind of like the currency inside Besieged. To get the nectar, you have to spell a word right. So you get your word, you spell it right, you earn some nectar, and that enables you to then buy the next tower, the next defender, and get to a higher level. That's kind of the idea. And there is some strategy involved. And so there are games that do this very well, this kind of model of this sort of, you know, format of a game. And so you'll get some children who are really keyed into the strategy, but everybody will hopefully be able to get through at least 10 words or so. So it's equivalent to a Spelling Shed game. It's currently driven by the Mastery Zone algorithm with some extra bits. So it works as a kind of standalone game. So if you have your weekly words, they might do that first. And then when the little limit lists lock thing comes off, they'll be able to play this, and they will practice the words that are most important for them. So it's, you know, every child's going to have their own progression. But hopefully what it adds is a sort of another element to drive engagement, and for them want to spell the words right and quickly, because they get the nectar, they can put the towers in, they can defend the queen. There are also bonus chests and a few other little features that again they have to spell correctly to earn. There's a variety of units that get unlocked as they work through the levels. And you get to this kind of state where there's lots going on. The little dandelions earn more nectar as well. So there's a bit of like, do you invest in dandelions to get more in the long run? And then every so often you get the bear, who's like the big baddie, who's going to try and get the honey squash the queen, so it comes around. So your towers zap it until it runs out of health, and then it goes back out and goes, okay, maybe I'll try another day. And then you get to where you get a summary, obviously how many enemies you've defeated, how many correct answers, and obviously at a teacher side, you get insight into what children have done. Fundamentally, they're spelling the words, but from an engagement point of view, what it hopefully will do is add a bit of excitement in. And I mean, we're aware children in year 6 have played quite similar games for quite a long time, and so what we're trying to do with this is kind of reinvigorate re-infuse them in the platform, because it's that, the pedagogy is important, but the practice is too, as I said at the start. And the practice from a child's point of view is tied into kind of feeling excited about putting the effort in to do this thing. So hopefully that achieves that. We plan to keep rolling out more games and whatever in the future. With this one, it's quite a different format though, which has been quite an interesting process. Let's say hopefully children will love it and will get stuck in. The last step, Q&A. There's no questions in the. There we go. I'll open the Q&A. So if anyone would like to ask a question, drop it in there or in the chat. I'm going to pad for a few minutes in case anyone's got a burning question, and then I can answer that. This recording will be on YouTube, so you can watch back. No one's asked a question. If anyone wants to ask anything, or particularly ask about things like moving to multi-year deals or account queries, or how to get the most out of Phonics Shed or Spelling Shed or MathShed or Literacy Shed or any of our sheds, by all means reach out to our support team. They're great. They'll help you out. They'll get you working effectively, and they're just on an email at support@edshed.com. But for me, thanks for listening. Hopefully the new stuff helps everybody, and I'll no doubt see you on a future webinar. Thanks. Goodbye.